what happened to her was, as Secretary Vilsack said, very unfortunate. He takes full responsibility for it. He spoke to her, and what I emphasized in my conversation with Ms. Sherrod was that I think Secretary Vilsack's very sincere.
And the buck stops right over there.
Right over at the Secretary of Agriculture. Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest news and analysis, everything you need to know. And I am twitter.com/Rick Klein. That is a new address, big change here on Top Line. I am Rick Klein, and this is John Karl, at John Karl, Mr. Twitter himself. So, kick us off today, sir.
Defiant. Charlie Rangel now faces a trial before the House Ethics Committee over a long list of violations or alleged violations of House rules, but he is not backing down. He insists he is innocent, and look what he had to say to our friend Luke Russert of MSNBC when Luke asked if this would cost him his job.
NBC, MSNBC.
While you're young, I guess you do need to make a name for yourself, but basically, you know it's a dumb question, and I'm not going to respond.
Mr. Speaker, we have a problem here. John, this is...
Might have been a dumb answer.
No, I don't... look, he is dug in on this, and it's unfortunate from his perspective because this trial would kick off the week of his primary up in New York. Everyone in House leadership really wants this to go away, and they gave him ample opportunities to make it go away, to cop essentially a plea, and he's not doing it. He's sticking around. Next up, Norm Coleman, the former senator from Minnesota, Republican senator, has let it be known that he is interested in the RNC job. Of course, there is a current RNC chairman, and Michael Steele is expected to try for another term early next year. But this is the first indication we've gotten from a big name in Republican politics that there will be competition for that seat, that it won't be an easy path to re-election. I think we could have guessed that. But Norm Coleman putting his hat in the ring, making some phone calls, this is a big deal.
And clearly, all the Republican leadership here in Washington would just love to see Norm Coleman win this to do away with Michael Steele. But keep in mind, this election is of those members of the Republican National Committee. These are local party organizers all around the country. Who knows who actually wins this thing when it happens? Next up, sales tax. John Kerry has a new yacht. It is $7 million, and it is a beauty. But the Massachusetts senator, who has a nice place in Nantucket, is docking his yacht in Rhode Island. Why? This is a story that's broken by the Boston Herald. Well, Rhode Island does not have a tax on yachts, so he will save more than $400,000 a year by parking his yacht over in neighboring Rhode Island. It's kind of an interesting story. By the way, it's a nice yacht too, Rick.
I'd imagine so for $7 million.
Yeah, it says here it's got glossy varnished teak interior, 2 VIP main cabins, and a pilot house fitted with a wet bar and cold wine storage.
Yeah, I only have one VIP cabin on mine. This is, of course, Massachusetts has a budget crisis, and this could be a big deal for the senator from Massachusetts to try to explain this. But it's a lot of money he's saving in taxes.
$500 grand.
Who can blame him? And finally today, don't ask, do discharge. Surprising just about no one. Lieutenant Dan Choi has been discharged from the military. This is the service member who came out as openly gay, basically to defy and to try to challenge the military's policy, don't ask, don't tell policy. It puts again the administration in this awkward position. They want don't ask, don't tell off the books. They have said publicly they don't agree with it, but they continue to enforce it in cases like this. And he was telling everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's happy to tell everybody about this. And this does not win a lot of fans in the gay rights community for the White House. They are already critical that this administration has not moved more aggressively to do away with this policy.
That's right. Well, we begin today with some big news in Arizona, and we're joined by the Attorney General of Arizona, Terry Goddard, who's also a Democratic candidate for governor. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Goddard. Obviously, the court challenge was played out a bit yesterday in federal court in Arizona. Your office not involved in it, but what is your read? Do you believe this law is constitutional, this law that was passed in Arizona?
Well, I was prepared to defend it, so yes, I believe that it can be defended adequately. I am not, as you said, involved in this defense because the governor insisted on doing it all herself, and so it's now the ball is in her court, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so you would have defended the law, but you don't like the law.
No, as a policy matter, I spoke out against it. I said that I believed it should be vetoed, and here's why. We have a serious problem on the border, and the reason I'm here in Washington is because I was testifying yesterday before the House Homeland Security Committee about how we can do a better job of fighting border crime, and I think that's got to be number one. So I would have, had I been governor at the time, would have asked the legislature to do a better job, focus on the real problem, and help us in Arizona, and hopefully with the help of the national government, actually fight back against the cartels who are the real problem.
But was it an unfortunate decision by this administration to go forward with this lawsuit?
Well, I think they had other choices. There are 6, the U.S. makes 7 lawsuits against 1070, so that there was no question in my mind that all the legal issues would have been vetted before the court, as they are right now, arguments yesterday. So we have bigger problems on the southwest border and throughout the country. We need first and foremost to stop the criminal incursions that come across the border. And I think we can do that, and I have a plan to do it. I'd love to talk about that. But the other thing is we need immigration reform. I mean, we need to put everybody on the same page. And I wish this administration, this Congress would get to work on that and not work on a lawsuit in Arizona, which is going to go on for a long time. I mean, whoever wins this particular issue, it's going to be appealed. Unfortunately, it will be argued for years.
What can be done on the border? And I've seen numbers that suggest that the number of apprehensions is actually down significantly year over year. So
the high point was in 2000, 2001.
So does that say to you that this is all a major overreaction to what's going on the border? That there is the problem is getting less over time? Well,
this is political. Come on, get real. That's what your show is about.
Exactly.
I know you do. And so what you have is sloganeering on each side. It was just before the committee in Congress on Homeland Security, and congressmen came on both sides, and they each had their slogan and their quick statement about the border and about 1070, and then they left. It's a more difficult problem than that, and I'm really pleading with the administration to slow down, to get out of the sloganeering, and let's look at the real criminal problem. I'm a law enforcement person. I would like to see us go after the criminals in this case, and they are the Justice Department last year said this was the most serious organized crime threat to the security of the United States were the cartels. So let's go after the cartels. We've identified the problem. Let's do everything we can to knock them down.
But on the law, and I understand you've got serious issues with the law, you were opposed to it, but has it been distorted by its critics? I mean, it's been portrayed as this racial profiling. And
the law has over a dozen parts, so it's very hard to characterize it in any one way. The big part is that it tries to put local law enforcement in the job of enforcing federal immigration law. I guess that's the bumper sticker, or close to the bumper sticker division.
Has it been distorted by this White House?
Well, I think so. I mean, it was unfortunate when both the Attorney General and the President attacked it and then said they hadn't read it. So a certain amount of real knowledgeable discussion would have been helpful at the beginning. The bottom line is we have a problem on the border. Let's focus our efforts on that and on our immigration problem, the illegal aliens that are in this country. I think we need to resolve that. Arizona has said overwhelmingly that they want some action. They want to see either the 1070 solution, which is a law enforcement solution, or they want to see immigration reform. Interestingly, about the same numbers in polling I've seen indicate support for both.
When you look at this law, and obviously if it goes on the books, and you as the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona, I'm curious as to what you think. When a police officer is there at the ground level, can you really take race out of the equation? When someone is stopped or arrested on a minor violation, is it possible to take race out of the discussion? Although the law says that, I don't know how that's possible.
No, the law doesn't say that. The law says that the current standards, constitutional standards as set by the Supreme Court, which do allow racial profiling, would be the standard.
So will there be racial profiling, do you think?
I don't want to say anything critical of some great law enforcement officers we have in Arizona, but it is possible.
Well, that's the concern from law enforcement. We've heard a lot of law enforcement agencies say exactly that it's impossible for them to do their jobs effectively.
It will be very hard. I mean, multiple reasons for thinking this is bad policy is A, it doesn't focus on border crime, which I think we need to do. B, it's an unfunded mandate to local law enforcement. C, it kills our community policing operations. It makes 1/3 of our population who are Latino very suspicious of the police. That's a problem.
But you are against the boycott, right? I mean,
the boycott, you know.
How do you feel about it? I mean, and you have Major League Baseball. You know, there's this movement to get the All-Star game out of Arizona. What about all of this?
Well, Arizona is wrestling with a problem that the nation has failed to deal with, and that's the border issues that I'm focused on, and it's immigration reform. why are we being penalized for raising the red flag and saying, excuse me, country, we've got a problem here? I think we've still got to debate how we're going to resolve that problem, but we have raised the danger rocket. We've set off the flare. And to penalize us right now for doing that, when the lady that signed the bill is an unelected governor and we have elections in the fall, let Arizona work on this first and let us get to a conclusion before the rest, the assembled might and dignity of the United States comes down and hammers us economically. And the people who are being hurt the most, frankly, I believe, are many of the folks they want to help. So I think a boycott is a very crude instrument, and I wish people back off.
All right, Terry Goddard, the Attorney General of Arizona and the Democratic candidate for governor. Thanks for being here. This is a fascinating time in Arizona politics.
Yeah, it's a hot time.
Thanks, and look forward to getting to it's cooler in Arizona. We're going to hit 100 degrees here in Washington tomorrow.